just heard is the voice of your New England Patriots, Bob Socci. He's on 98.5 The Sports Hub Patriots Radio Network, and Bob's Hot Takes are powered by Bigelow Tea. If you want to know what keeps Bob's voice in peak condition, it's his hot cup of Bigelow Tea with an exclamation point. Hot Takes and Hot Tea, Bigelow Tea with an exclamation point. Grab a mug and tea proudly with another exclamation point.
Wow.
And Bob joins us on the Volkswagen Dealers Expert Hotline. Hello, Bob.
Hello, Fred, with an exclamation point.
That's right. Always, baby. They call me Freddie exclamation. All right. I like doing this with you. I'm going to just ask a simple question, not lead you in any direction, and we can go from there. I'm just going to ask you to give us your thoughts as you now reflect on what happened less than 12 hours ago.
Well, similar script, right, as the first game. Fall behind, make mistakes, dig yourselves a hole, try to come back and just not have enough to do it. And I think, though, in the case of last night's game, it seemed like it was to me, it was remarkable. And we commented off air during a number of the breaks that the Patriots still had that chance to come back in the game because the way it flowed throughout, it seemed like Miami was in complete control. And I think that the Dolphins not only demonstrated the huge disparity in speed and athleticism, but also the way they control the line of scrimmage. The Patriots' defensive line could not get any penetration. Therefore, a guy like Mostert's running with a full head of steam toward the line. And it wasn't just him. It was Ahmed for the Dolphins to run for that kind of yardage after struggling the way they did against the Chargers, not necessarily known as a physical defense. And that's concerning for the Patriots. Maybe part of that's the way the Patriots played defensively, but still got to be better up front. And then the offensive line. Too many times negative plays. That first drive, an example, they move into Dolphin territory, then they lose yardage on a run, and then they lose yardage on a sack. And, last week against Philadelphia was a couple of penalties to kill a drive into Eagle territory. Yesterday, it was negative yardage plays. I think there was a sequence where, and it was that particular series where they had the negative carry on a running play, and then a sack, and then essentially a screen for no yards, if not maybe a loss of a half yard, and indicative of the struggles of the offense.
I just want to get a sense of what you were feeling in the booth at the end of that game, because when you hear the clip and you see it on TV, when they ended up saying that Cole Strange had not ended up getting that first down, there are audible boos. In your opinion, are they booing the refs, or is that more of a we're booing the state of this team right now that we've been watching the past couple of weeks?
Yeah, Rich, probably both. The thing about the overturn on that particular play is that I think there were a couple of challenges during the course of the game, one for each team, relative to spots. And, it's difficult really to see enough video evidence to overturn a play. And as we were watching the replays over and over again, I kept wanting to convince myself that he had it. In a couple of angles, it appeared as though he did. But I thought that, in the end, it seemed to be the right call. And so I think in that case, maybe as the fans saw it on the video boards too, maybe they saw it similarly, and therefore were just expressing their frustration with the result. And really overall how you got to that result last night. Again, basically what we've seen not only this year in week one, but what we've seen too frequently over the course of the last 3 or 4 years.
The offensive line is so key to this team, Bob, and watching them last night, I mean, you can understand the two tackles struggling, and with one guy who hasn't been here, hasn't played on the line, and Anderson on the other side is not particularly great, but the interior of the offensive line really struggled for basically the entire night, and that in itself was shocking to me.
John, I think that's a thing for me too. I knew that there were going to be concerns, and rightfully so, at the tackle spot. I thought the Patriots got a bit of a break personnel-wise when Jalen Phillips was ruled inactive for the Dolphins, coming off a back injury late in the week in practice. So Miami loses, an edge player who, along with Bradley Chubb, are their two main guys to exert pressure from the edges, obviously. So I thought at least the Patriots could establish the running game against Miami the same way the Chargers were able to. And the Chargers are not generally a physically, imposing team running the football. I mean, Austin Eckler, along with Joshua Kelly, those guys amassed over 200 yards combined, and the Patriots never were able to get the running game going. And part of that, again, the circumstances of the game. They fall behind by a couple of scores early, and now you're chasing points. But you're right. The offensive line and the interior really struggled. I thought Cole Strange, and again, I'm watching the ball, and I don't know enough about offensive line play to judge, but it looked like, he was having a tough time. They rotated some people in. Mafi came in later in the game. Maybe part of that is the conditioning concerns that we had back in training camp with all that missed time for both Ueno and Strange. And they never came off the ball, it seemed. You're third in a half yard, and you go backwards on the adjustment by Mack at the line with a pitch play. The quarterback sneak was really, their best weapon in those short yardage situations last night. And with two backs like Ramondre Stevenson and Ezekiel Elliott, you would think that's a formula. Add it to those guys, and you're going to be able to pick up those short yardage conversions. But again, they just didn't come off the ball.
All right, Bob, what did you make of the benching of Demario Douglas, and how much do you blame him for the fumble?
A couple things, Fred. I think, number one, it's an effort play. It's young players trying to make a play with the ball in his hands after the catch, which is something the Patriots don't get. I mean, you look at and this is going to get off track for just a sec, you look at the disparity in the yards per attempt for the two quarterbacks. I don't know that Tua threw the ball downfield far better than Mack in terms of 10+ yards or anything to medium to deep range. But the Dolphins averaged about 8 yards per pass attempt, and a lot of that's after the catch. That's their formula. So Demario Douglas is the one guy in that Patriots offense, maybe along with Bourne to some degree, who's able to give you that. And I think he's trying to make a play there. I think Chubb makes a good hustle play. I mean, he's a defensive end who's running from behind, and he comes down with the chop, but the ball was loose, and he's got to tuck it away. And Patriots do work on that repeatedly.
I think that's a great play by Chubb, a second effort play by Chubb, and I just don't know why that was considered so. I mean, I thought Ezekiel Elliott's fumble in week 1 was more egregious. I don't get benching the kid. It's very comparable, I think, to the Ezekiel Elliott play. Yeah, did you agree with the decision? So you don't agree with the decision to bench the kid?
Mixed. I understand that. That's kind of been the MO with young players in the past. I remember when
it doesn't make it right.
But but I think circumstances do change over the course. In each game situation is different. If you have the confidence, the way I look at it, to put somebody back there on punt returns, he was a bit of an adventure too on 2 punt returns after Marcus Jones got hurt, where he nearly overran the punts twice, and then the second time kind of lost yardage after catching the punt. I mean, I think if you put a guy out there in that situation where the ball's definitely at risk, then I don't understand why there isn't the same level of confidence to give him a chance to atone for that fumble offensively.
All right, after that unbelievable field goal block, that's the one play you can take a look at. I mean, unless there were a couple of good plays. I mean, obviously Christian Gonzalez had a great game, but that play right there in particular was one where, for the first time, Fred and I were joking, in I don't know how long, you saw something innovative from the Patriots. Because when Brady was here, you see these things every once in a while, like, oh, yeah, everyone's going to rip this off. But that truly was something else. When you and Zolak were in the booth, had either of you guys seen anything like that or had any indication that was what was coming?
No, Brendan Schooler said it kind of developed during the course of the week, and he was even surprised by it, that Joe Judge conceived it during the course of the week. And McDaniel said after the game, too, that it's nothing that he's ever seen before. And he likened what the Patriots did there with Schooler to what the Dolphins do offensively. He said they kind of use the same motion we do offensively, to create that block. The one thing you do see, and I asked Schooler about it afterwards, again, I'm sure every team does it to some degree. So players who've been elsewhere, say the Patriots, at least do it more than a lot. They work on the technique, the angle, and they block soccer balls or volleyballs in training camp, right from day one of training camp. And Schooler, obviously, that's his concentration, special teams. And he came close to a couple of kicks over the course of the first 2 weeks of the season. But that particular play was just timed up perfectly. Last year they got a punt block. Jonathan Jones got to a punt in a game that was similar against the Indianapolis Colts that I thought was a well-conceived play. But to me, and I'm one of those dorks that really appreciate special teams, and I want to see special teams, stay in football as a relevant part of the game. And I think that's the kind of play, that can have an impact. And he should have had a much greater impact on the wheel and the loss. You come up with a play like that, you got to take advantage of it.
Yeah, but it had I think it had an effect on the kid hooking the field goal left that could have sealed the game.
Yeah.
What about rumors that they wanted to do it last year, but Patricia crapped all over it, so they didn't?
Well, it's funny. Somebody in the booth last night, mentioned that last year, everybody was down on the coaches, and and this year it's a lot of talk right now about personnel and some of the shortcomings there. They're 0-2 for the first time, as we know, since 2001. They got to go to the Jets with that defense, and the Jets obviously didn't play well yesterday. I would have to think, an emotional letdown. I would think, too, for the defense. You lose Rodgers in the first week, and you can say all the nice things you want about Zach Wilson, but you go into that game, and it's got to be deflating. They were outclassed. But they're going to come back next week. They won't be sluggish defensively against the Patriots, a division foe that's beaten them 14 straight times. And you still got to deal with that offensive line. So whether it's Bill O'Brien, Matt Patricia, or Joe Judge, it's pretty basic. You got to win at the line of scrimmage.
Did you have your hand up, Johnny, or was that just for a show?
No, that was me itching my scalp, Fred. I apologize. My hand was not up. Thank you.
All right. I was looking at you. I was watching our new video feed that stays on even in breaks. All right. Well, listen, and I could hear everything you guys were talking about before the show. It was exciting. All right. Bob Socci, excellent job last night as always. I apologize. There's not a better product. But enjoy yourself at MetLife. I'm sure that will be a win. And then you can go about your business with a 1-2 team and go from there. We thank you for your time, sir.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
And you sound fresh after a late night, which I can only rack up to Bigelow tea. So there you go.
This is definitely a Bigelow tea morning, Fred.
Well, I'll tell you. Don't push it. All right, thank you, Bob.
Sitting by the window, looking at the rain, collecting.
That's right. I'm trying to think of where my dog is going to take its 8 dumps today. Yeah. All right, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
That's what my life has become. When it rains like this, I check the weather and I go, "Where is this? This dog is going to take 8 craps today. Just when are they going to be taken? And where are they going to be taken?" That is the mystery. All right, so the great Bob Socci.